All right, in my last episode, I promised you a part 2. So here it is, all about incorporating prayer. Part 2. Well, welcome back to another episode of Youth Ministry Insights. And today I am sharing part 2 of a 2-part series on incorporating prayer into your ministry. Now, if you didn't watch part 1, you can go back and watch it. It doesn't have to be watched consecutively, so you can go ahead and watch it after this one. It's no problem because they don't build on each other. I'm just sharing different types of prayer incorporated into your ministry. So this episode is all about specific devotionals. The first one I'd like to talk about is a novena. So novenas are typically prayed for 9 days straight, a specific prayer for usually a specific intention. In our case as a ministry, because we don't meet for 9 days straight, I've incorporated novenas over a 9-week period for our weekly meetings. It's a great way to expose youth to the devotion of a novena, a great tradition in our Catholic faith, but also a way to praying consecutively for a specific intention. In our case, we had lost something in our ministry and we prayed for 9 weeks straight for this item to be found. It was quickly found, but we continued the prayer for those 9 weeks that we promised. And it was a great way for our youth to see, wow, our prayers were answered. And we kept to what, our goal was, which was to pray for those 9 weeks straight for this specific intention through St. Anthony's intercession. It was a great lesson for us and a great way for us to have that devotion to that saint. It's also great to incorporate the saints into your ministries. So encouraging youth to pray through the intercession of the different saints. We have so many beautiful ones, and each saint has something that they're specifically known for, right? They're the patron saint of something. So we know that different saints help us in different areas of our life. So it's great for the youth to understand that and to really be exposed to that. So like St. Joseph Cupertino is a great saint to pray for when they're trying to study harder and get better grades. I always recommend him. Another great saint is St. Dymphna. She's actually the saint that our girls group that meets called Spiritual Guidance. It's our girls' time, and then the guys have a separate group. Well, our girls chose St. Dymphna because she's known for being the patron saint, those suffering with anxiety, stress, also even mental disorders. So she's a great saint for our time, and our youth have learned more about her through this devotion of praying each meeting that we start off with through her intercession. So there's so many great saints. I know a lot of athletes tend to like St. Sebastian because he is well known to be the patron saint of athletes. So exposing these youth to these different saints allows them to grow a devotion to them. And I always have little saint cards around, and particularly even little saint medals, so that the youth can get to know different saints and have something, a little sacramental for that saint. Let it be a prayer card or a little charm, little pendant for them. So those are another great way, is incorporating the saints into your ministry. And then the last way that I want to incorporate and talk to you about is praying on the Rosary, but there's 2 different ones. One is the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and the other is the Rosary itself. So I always like to have rosaries around our office, our youth space. I have this particular one basket that they're kept in, and the youth know, if they want one, they can always take one and have it. If they need one, but just they don't want to keep it, they can use it and then put it back in the basket. So incorporating the Rosary and devotions prayed on the Rosary into our meetings is another way that I really love to share with the youth. So first, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, which is prayed on the Rosary, is a prayer given by Jesus to St. Faustina in 1935. So the early 1900s, Jesus shared this prayer with her. So it hasn't been around super long, but it's gaining a great popularity in the more recent times, especially for praying for holy souls in purgatory. It's a great prayer that if I haven't taught it yet to the youth, typically around the month of November for the holy souls in purgatory, I really do love to incorporate it. And I always share with them that there's 2 ways to pray this prayer. First is the 5-minute version, just pray it on the Rosary, pray it out loud, very repetitive. You can pick it up easily. If a youth never knew it, they'll learn it by the first time it's prayed. And then the second way is in song. There's a beautiful song by the Marian Helpers. It's usually played on EWTN, and it's sung. And it's sung really beautifully and kind of gets into the youth's heart. It's about 18 minutes long, the song, but it's really beautiful and meditative. I always tell them you can even meditate to it and pray on it. One way that I've incorporated the Divine Mercy Chaplet to youth is that I ask them and challenge them in a way that on each bead to pray for a different soul that they know. And if they haven't lost, 50 people in their life, just to repeat it. Maybe a different bead on each decade and then repeat that decade worth of 10 people. But to pray for a different soul. And I always encourage them that it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody you met. It could be your great-great-grandparent or your great-great-aunt or somebody from your ancestors that you heard about but you never got to meet. And then if not, maybe people more closely in their life that they have lost. It's a great way to teach them about praying for the holy souls in purgatory and hoping that our prayers will help get them into heaven. And I always say, if you don't have a soul to pray for, then ask God for the next nearest soul to enter heaven, that is about to enter heaven, that your prayers will allow them to enter heaven. And then lastly, the Rosary, also prayed on the Rosary itself, is a beautiful prayer asking Our Lady's intercession, but also a meditation on Christ's life. I love incorporating the Rosary into all different meanings, from young to old. Sometimes it could just be a decade of the Rosary. Other times it can be the whole Rosary. And there's different ways that you can help have the youth lead the Rosary. You can have them each take a decade and maybe just 5 of them volunteer. Or a lot of times I like to do where we go around the room and each person takes a bead of the Rosary and just kind of repeats itself, if there's less than 50 people. And then one way that I specifically like to pray, kind of similarly to the Divine Mercy Chaplet, is on each bead, each youth says an intention that they want to pray for. So it takes a little longer, but it does get that prayer to kind of go deeper, where it's not so much just saying the words of a Hail Mary, but each bead we're thinking about a different intention from a different person in the room. It always goes over very beautifully, and the youth really do dig deep with their prayer life with that. Again, it takes a little longer, but it's a really beautiful way to incorporate meditation on different intentions on different bead. Of course, we have to explain the mysteries of the Rosary, explain the different days of the week and why different mysteries are on different days of the week. That's always a great lesson for them to learn and kind of learn those days that each mystery is prayed on. But I always tell them, you know what? Even if you don't know all of those details, just praying to Mary, asking her intercession, praying for her help from heaven, asking Jesus through her to help us is a great tool. So never forget Our Lady, never forget the great force she is in prayer and the great helper and assistant she is to us here on this earth. So incorporating these different ways of prayer into your ministry can really help round out your ministry's prayer life and teach the youth so many different ways to pray and asking God to be with them and to help them. And in turn, you're touching the hearts, which is touching the souls of the youth. God bless.